let your life pass you by. Weep not for the memories. Remember the good times that we had. Let them slip away from us when things got bad. Clearly I first saw you smiling in the sun. Wanna feel your warmth upon me. Wanna be the one. I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for memories. I'm so tired, I can't sleep. Standing on the edge of something much too deep. It's funny how it feels so much you cannot say a word. We are screaming inside, oh, we can't be heard. But I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for your memories. So afraid to love you, more afraid to lose. Clinging to a past that doesn't let me choose. But once there was a darkness deep in this night. Gave me everything you had, oh, you gave me life. And I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for the memories. I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for the memories. Weep not for the
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In preparation for our service, which will begin shortly, we would like, if you have a cellular phone device, please put it in the
I will remember you. Will you my sleep, standing on the edge of something much too deep. It's funny how it feels so much, I cannot say a word. We are screaming inside, oh, we can't be heard. But I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for so afraid to love you, more afraid to lose, clinging to a past that doesn't let me choose. Where once there was a darkness deep in this night, gave me everything you had, oh, you gave me life. And I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for
That's where I'd put you.
Weep not for the I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for the memories. Remember the good times that we had. Let them slip away from us when things got bad. Clearly I first saw you smiling in the sun. Wanna feel your warmth upon me. I wanna be the one. I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. can't sleep, standing on the edge of something much too deep. It's funny how it feels so much, you cannot say a word. We are screaming inside, oh, we can't be heard. I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for.
Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to be seated. It's not always easy to light a candle for a firefighter. Isn't that the truth? A warm and gracious welcome to each and every one of you as we gather here today to celebrate the life of our beloved Mr. John Carriere. It is the death of our friend that has brought us together, but it is his life that we will honor and cherish together today in the community he loved so much with each and every one of you. It's wonderful to see all of you gentlemen out in your reds. And guess what? I'm going to take my shoe off. I wore the red pumps for my firefighter guy. Now I got to put it back on. My name is Carol Martin, and it's an honor to share in this celebration of life ceremony with all of you. Though I did not have a personal relationship with John, I so wish I did. He was one of those guys that was just all around wonderful. I learned all about him from his beloved Diane, and I can't wait to share this ceremony with all of you because it's their tribute and their way of honoring John, and I merely the orator. And so, I'd like to begin our time together by sharing a poem. I hope that you hear John's heart embedded in its words. It's called Miss Me But Let Me Go, and it goes like this. When I come to the end of the road and the sun has set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not too long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that we once shared. Miss me, let me go. For this is a journey we all must take and must each go alone. It's all part of the master plan, a step on the road home. When you are lonely and sick of heart, go to the friends we know and bury your sorrows in doing good deeds. Miss me, but let me go. Death is a deeply personal matter when we lose someone we love so much. Now, each one of you is here because throughout life and throughout John's journey, you were a part of it. Life is a beautiful story. And you know those dates that mark the gravestone, the urn, the beginning date, the end date? They matter. But what really counts is all of the things that fills time between those dates and creates a wonderful storybook of love. Today, we cherish John and the love story he wrote day after day, faithfully and loyally to his family, his friends, his community, and to those abroad. I want to encourage you all today that no one should be afraid of death, for it is a natural state of life and living. No one who encountered our beloved failed to be warmed by his presence, and no one who knows of his passing will remain untouched by it. As a matter of fact, we have a full house. Ladies and gentlemen, come forward. There's lots of seats in the front. It's okay. Yeah, now they're feeling really awkward. This is just a little bit. This is what happens when you show up late, people. I'm kidding. Welcome, a gracious welcome to you. Life's significance lies in the memories of those who knew us and the influence we've left behind. John's spirit will live on in the memories of his family and friends forever. As we find ourselves given over to the sadness that grief naturally bears, we will honor John for the life he lived and the love he gave so liberally along his way. Today, we will be daring enough to focus on our thoughts of our shared happiness and treasure him always for having shared the journey with us. I love the words that Helen Keller wrote. She says, "What we have once enjoyed, we can never lose, for all that we love deeply becomes part of us." It's at a time like this that we draw comfort from words that are tried, tested, and found true. No, it's not a GM commercial or Chevy. We go to the words that were penned thousands of years ago by a little guy who was voted least likely to succeed. David, you remember that guy in the Bible? The guy that killed Goliath with just a few stones, didn't miss his shot. Because guess what? When you're sitting in the back 40 with the sheep, you got lots of time to practice. And he had it right. Life wasn't always easy for David. There was a calling upon his life to rule Israel and to become king. And when Saul got wind of that, the king on the throne, he was very threatened. So history has it that Saul was out to kill David. And we think that these words were penned sometime during that challenging stretch. And he writes, and you're going to know the words. And if you'd like to follow with me, the 23rd Psalm reads, "The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures and leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." His words assure us that no matter what happens to us as we live life, that God is faithful to be with us. God is in control and able to carry us even through the most challenging circumstances. The question today is, where are we being carried to? Where did John go? Is heaven a real place? Does it really exist? Well, I don't know. I've never been. But there are people who've had a near-death experience, and I'd like to share one story with all of you. I see a hand going up. This is going to be interesting. Now, there's this little boy named Colton Burpo. There was a movie done about a book that was written called Heaven is for Real. Have any of you seen it? Yeah, it's an amazing story. This little 4-year-old boy has to undergo an emergency appendectomy, and while he's experiencing the operation, he has an outer body experience where he rises up from his body, can see the doctors working on him, and then feels gravitating to a light where he's welcomed by people who knew him. Now, these were his grandparents he'd never seen before, so it was all a little strange. And then he says that the angels sang to him and had a conversation with Jesus. And he said, he looks nothing like the pictures we have of him. Nothing like him. And he sketched out a picture to help us understand. He concluded with simple words, "Mom and Dad, heaven is for real, and you're going to like it. Nobody is old, and nobody wears glasses." I shared this story recently with another family, and I no sooner shared than a lady put up her hand, and I said, "Come on up." She wanted to speak. You could have heard a pin drop when she began to say, I was giving birth to my second child, and I too had a near-death experience. And what that little boy saw, so did I. Now, it's one thing for me to share a story, but it's another from someone who's been there and lived to tell to come forward. Wow, what an encouraging moment that was for that family, and I pass it along to you. This is but one glimpse of what eternity looks like from the eyes of a 4-year-old child. My confidence as a believer in Jesus Christ is that John has found himself in this beautiful world, surrounded by those he's known and loved all his life, whom he's lost along the path. We too can have the confidence to believe that heaven is much closer than it would appear. You know, on that rear view mirror, you got that scroll that says objects are closer than they appear. I want to play a word game with you. Next time you get in your car and you're sitting in traffic, look and just switch some words out. Heaven is closer than it appears. I tell you, it is but one beautiful breath away. And it is then that we come to our eternal rest. Surrounded in love, from love we return to love. It is a beautiful way. It is a beautiful hope. And it is a beautiful promise from our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I had the opportunity to chat with Diane and learn all about John. Now, this man did so many wonderful things. It's really hard to put it into just a few sentences. So I thought I'd share what I learned with you, keeping in mind that his life is so much bigger than what I can capture. John came into the world in the usual way on May 17th, 1946, in that little town just west of here called Arnprior. He was born to his parents, Cliff and Alice Carriere. He would grow up the eldest of his 2 sisters, Karen and Leslie. Are you here today, Karen? Leslie? Okay. Perfect. Where is she? Where's Leslie? I can't see it. I really am blind in one eye. Starting to show it now. Yeah. Perfect. He was greatly influenced by his mother and spent most of his childhood in Westboro, beautiful little space of Ottawa. He would grow up and remain close to his mom all his days and loved to look after his little sisters, as most big brothers do. He was faithful. He forged a strong work ethic at an early age, and he took on work at the local IGA as a grocery boy in delivery, and this is where he would meet his lovely Diane. Their 2 paths crossed when she asked for directions to the bakery, and he was only too happy to help her, tell her where to go, and in the process thought he'd play a little joke on the new girl, and opened up the back door to where all the old vegetables were sitting, waiting to be hauled out. And he put her in there and said, it's in there, go ahead. Shut the door, and then the lights. Diane said, that must have been my first clue. I would be terrified. Nope, not her. No, she thought he was a looker. Yes. It's a good thing he had that going for him, right? The 2 became a pair on July 13th, 1967, and they married with her father's consent. They welcomed 3 sons, David, Bruce, and Kyle. Though Kyle cannot be here today, he is most certainly in spirit and will be able to view the ceremony as this event is being recorded. John celebrated becoming a grandfather to Jade, Jasmine, Piper, and Marceline. He also had a best friend. Can anyone figure it out? Dear God, I'm losing Buster. Buster. Can everyone see Buster? This was John's dear friend that comforted him in all the hours. Throughout his struggle, he had a best friend growing up with him every day, never leaving his side. And I guess that's what a man family. There you go. Ah. Because he was such a staunch friend and little lover of John, we thought it fitting that he be with us today. And as a matter of fact, our pets do grieve, and he grieved when he scented John's face. He curled up in the crooks of his arm and stayed there. That's a faithful friend, isn't it? Dogs. Wow. Shortly after he married, he would become a firefighter with the Ottawa Fire Department and served from 1967 to 2006, achieving the rank of platoon chief. At age 60, he would retire. Now, as if that wasn't busy enough, John loved his work, and he loved his family most of all. He and Diane shared a good life together, 50 years to the day, as a matter of fact. Such a gentleman for hanging in there for the 50th wedding anniversary. But their home was a very happy haven for many along the way, including 111 children's aid babies were fostered by these two and loved. Can you imagine? I can't. He was always ready to help others in need and spent many volunteer hours on missions like Katrina with the Red Cross and serving with other hurricane relief and disasters. I'm telling you, a brother is born for adversity, and one who serves faithfully, who can find? Who can find? I'm a big fan of firefighters. I did most of my work with the Salvation Army, and every year, all of us girls would get our heels on like this because we knew that the firemen were coming to town and they were going to load up all our toys and pack them away strategically, and we just loved to watch them. It was such a happy moment. I know we should focus on Jesus, but Christmas was a happy moment, and we so enjoyed it, so enjoyed it. I love that firemen are brave, because as you know, they come running in when everybody else is running out. They're a special breed of people. And I can't help but wonder if there just isn't a special place in heaven for men and women like that. Exceptional. I think Buster agrees. He's panting a little more over there. He's good, he's good. Now, as many of you know, John had a secret love affair. Yes, when we celebrate life, we celebrate everything. And you're going to all be in the know today. John loved a redhead and managed to spend many hours under her hood, fixing her up so she would be safe to take for a ride. I know it sounds scandalous, and I really struggled to say all of that. I had to really think it through. But Diane said it would be okay. Well, this redhead turned out to be a real looker, and Diane never minded sharing her beloved with his seemingly older woman interest. You will see her just outside the front doors of the chapel today. She's a stunning 1939 red Ford fire truck. And boy, did he love spending time working on her, getting her into shape. John was a founding member of the Bytown Fire Brigade and was passionate about their cause and his truck. Family described John as having a generous heart of gold behind his strong exterior self. His kindness in action, I'm going to add that. People can talk a good game, but what's really under all of that? Reliability, faithfulness, loyalty. He embraced all of that. I can say with absolute confidence that a friend in need is a friend indeed to many along his life's journey. He will always be fondly remembered for his many acts of service, courage, bravery, to our community, our country, and his faithfulness to his family. He blazed a beautiful trail in his 72 years of living years with us, and we will treasure him always. On his 50th wedding anniversary, July 13th, our world lost one brave man, and heaven delivered faithfully on its promise. And I am confident of this, that as he journeyed through those gates, greeted by those he's loved, like his mother, can you imagine hearing the words, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Well done." Not a surprise, knowing John as you all do. Let it be said of our beloved that as long as we have John's memories, we have all his yesterdays. As long as we have his love, he remains safe in our hearts, always. And as long as we have his heart to make the world a better place, all things are possible. All things. John's family have chosen some beautiful music pieces for us to lend an ear to. One of the ones that she asked us to play is by none other than the Hollies. He's not heavy, he's my brother. We do so in honor of his commitment to the fire department, his commitment to the brigade, which he loves so much, and all the men and women who helped him share in his passion. Have a listen, and as you do, give some thought to our brother this morning.
The road is long, with a many a winding tongue that leads us to who knows where, who knows where. But I'm strong. My brother, so on we go. His welfare is my concern. No burden is he to bear. We'll get there. He ain't heavy, he's my brother. If I'm leaning at all, I'm leaning with sadness that everyone's heart isn't filled with the gladness of love.
We have with us David. This would be John's son, eldest, and we'd like to invite him to come forward to share a eulogy and tribute in honor of his father. Take it away, David. And he's also going to surprise you with a beautiful song. Stay tuned.
So I have a zillion distinct memories of my father, and here's a few. One time when I was 14, I think my mom made my dad go play baseball with my friends and I, and he was the only dad there. And I remember telling my friend, you know, I'll take my dad on my team because I don't think he's very good. And I didn't want to be accused of, stacking my team. And I had no idea if he was any good. I was 14 and I knew everything. We all know who that is. So I'm on second base and my dad gets up to bat and I'm really hoping because he just hit it and grounded out or something. And the first pitch, he whiffs it, and oh no. And it's 2 out, and he's going to hit into the shortstop, and I'm going to be forced out, and oh. And then the next pitch, it was softball. We were just lobbing it underhand, so you could really hit it if you could. And he hit it. And it was that magic crack of the bat where it's hit perfectly, and it sailed into the air. And gravity didn't even begin to pull it down. And it sailed over the school at Blackburn Public and into the courtyard where we couldn't get in. And that was the second of 2 balls that we had brought, so the whole game was over. But I declared that we won because that was a home run. And I didn't know he was good at baseball. He was very good with a bat. I had no idea. And a slightly related story, when I was 6, I think, we were fishing off the dock at my grandmother's cottage, and I was a stick and piece of hot dog kind of guy, because I was 6, and I would hold it there and sunfish would bite and I'd take them off. My dad was casting with a lure, and these things were too complicated for me, so he was casting, and it was, the sun was going down, it was getting dark, it was very nice, loons out and everything. And then I heard the drag on his rod go, like zzz, like that. That's when something has got the hook. And as a kid, I knew that meant there's a fish coming, and I wanted to see it. So I put my rod down, and I wandered over. Did you get a fish, Dad? And he said, get off the dock. And in 1975, I think Jaws was out. So with that music playing in my head, I got off the dock, because maybe it was a lake shark. And I saw my dad's rod, and it was being pulled up instead of down where the fish would be. So I didn't know what it was. It turned out to be a bat. A bat had fallen over, and then the red devil spoon flying through the air was mistaken for an insect, and the bat hooked it in its pouch between its legs, and then tried to get away with a treble hook stuck between its legs. And my dad was reeling it in. At the end of the dock, I finally saw what was happening. This thing was figure-eighting over his head, and he was ducking and holding the rod up high like this. And unfortunately, the bat didn't survive. And people that didn't believe it believed it the next day because the thing was floating in the water. It had ears like this, and its things were, and it was like, unfortunately, the bat didn't make it. But I stuck to my stick and bobber after that because I didn't want to catch a bat. I figured if you threw it in the air, there was a chance of that happening. Skating, too. My father could skate really good. I think everyone from Arnprior could. I learned that later. But I remember being taken in the canal with my family, and I couldn't skate or stand up, or I could do one or the other, but not at the same time. And my father would do those crossover things, and the backward skating, and the 2-foot stop where you spray snow on your face of your son who's fallen on the ice. And just these things, you don't know stuff that your dad is good at. I've never beaten my dad at chess. We used to get him these little computers, and he'd beat them like... these are the mysteries of dads everywhere. The guitar. I credit my mother for getting me started in guitar when I was 8 because she wanted to take lessons and I didn't think she wanted to go alone, so she brought me. But my dad liked the electric guitar, and so when I got one at the age of 13, he soon bought himself one, and he was playing right along. He could play the intro to Walk, Don't Run by the Ventures and Smoke on the Water and a couple other things. And he even brought me to his friend Donnie Cole's place, and I could see real musicians up close and ask him questions like, how come my guitar doesn't sound like Jimi Hendrix? It was because I didn't have a distortion pedal. But he would, bring me along and further my own education and my interests through the expertise of his friends. He was quite a traveler. He took us all across Canada. One year we went west, the other year we went east, the other year we went south, towing a tent trailer behind a van with porthole windows and a bed in the back, and we would read Archie comics. He had this book from Reader's Digest that was called The Secret Parts of Canada, and he would earmark the pages. So we were treated to the biggest ball of string in Saskatoon, or house-sized fruit by the side of the road, like a giant peach you could walk into, and they would sell peaches or something in there. We got to see the Columbia ice fields, make snowballs in the summer, the Big Nickel mines in Sudbury. We swam in the Banff Hot Springs. We went to forts at Louisbourg and the Citadel, Lake Louise, the Badlands. We even got to go on the Blue Nose, too. And that's the ship on the back of the dime for you younger attendees. And a dime is 10 cents, just in case. The most uttered phrase on vacation by my dad was, "Look at the boats." Although it was, "Look at the boats!" If we were driving over a huge bridge and there was boats or a bay or something. And we would stop looking up after a while because we'd seen boats, but he seemed to really like boats. Maybe this is why the water rescue happened. We did a lot of Sandbanks camping at Sandbanks Provincial Park from the days when it used to be called the Outlet. My mother and father had devised this mysterious way through this thing called roll call to slowly get a beach site. We would spend 3 weeks there with no electricity and a 4-inch TV that we would plug into the cigarette lighter of our cars so my brother and I could watch cartoons. And we would pack up and move closer to the beach until we were right on it. So I have fond memories of that time. My dad did not, we brought my dog along, and my dad didn't like yelling for the dog when it would wander off. And this is because when I was quite young, I had an imaginary dog named Blackie. And I would say, "Hey, Blackie's licking my hand," and then people would go, "Where?" "Oh, she's gone. She's away." And somebody called me on it, a babysitter or something. Who was that? Mrs. Hamilton? "You can bring Blackie to my house tomorrow." Uh-oh. Okay. You got to dive all the way in on these things. And when I didn't show up with the dog the next day, she said, "Where's Blackie?" And I said, "He died." And my grandmother felt so bad that she showed up soon after with a black puppy. So I had an imaginary dog named Blackie. And this is a black puppy. What do you think I called that dog? I called it Parrot because I wanted a bird. So my mom and dad were like, "Parrot? Can you think of one other name?" Because they didn't want it. They thought, Parrot, oh, that's not good. So I said, "Cherry." And then suddenly Parrot wasn't that bad. And so when the dog would wander off when we're camping, my dad would go, "Parrot, get over here." And people would look up. And he'd get annoyed. I should have, pushed that one. Some of my friends were afraid of my dad. My friend Daryl used to tell me, "Your dad scares the heck out of me." Only he didn't say heck. Or my friend Daryl would say, "Why does your dad look at me like I'm an idiot?" And I used to joke and said, "It's because my dad has a real good judge of character, Daryl." Once Daryl, who went to Carleton University, was at school, and he said, "I saw your dad at university today." And I said, "What was he doing?" And he said he was stalking down the hallway in this big puffy suit with 2 other guys looking for something with a scowl on his face. So these are bunker suits. I assume someone pulled the fire alarm. And I told Daryl, "Did you go say hi?" And he said, "No, I hid." And this is because he didn't let his guard down around my friends unless we were camping when he was on vacation. He was a busy guy, and I guess he He didn't like my choice in friends, perhaps. I'm not sure. But we always brought friends when we went camping on vacation, and invariably they would all tell me, "Your dad's really funny." He'd make a farting noise, like, "Your dad's really funny." Actually, the second most uttered phrase when we were camping by my father after the boat thing was, "That wasn't me, it was your mother." Or probably the dog. In the end, the dog had to sleep in the car. I have fond memories of his 1939 Ford Bickel fire truck, especially the 10-hour trip to Port Hope. I've spent countless miles on the back of that thing. Never fell off. If you ever want to know how many heads can fit through a McDonald's drive-through window, you go through it in an antique fire truck. In the year 2000, he and his Bytown friends repeated our family's excursions across Canada by dipping the axles in the Atlantic Ocean and then later in the Pacific. He really liked that. My dad was always trying new business ventures. He was a landlord for a while, and we learned that CFL quarterbacks don't make good tenants. At one point, he had a suspected drug dealer in the basement and the equivalent of the church lady on the second floor who would call my dad every time he received a visitor after 9 p.m. He tried contracts blowing snow from in front of condominiums, and my brother and I helped. And we got to meet the kind of people that respond to ads in the newspaper for temporary work. It was very interesting people that we got to meet. But he made money on it, and we had a snowblower that had tank treads and could shoot snow across the street for many, many years after that. Although his first love was the fire department, he did spend a lot of time delivering oil for Petro-Canada. And I used to go along with him on this big truck because he'd pay me $20 a day to deliver the tickets to the front door. He would drag the fill pipe, fill the oil. When the truck stopped moving, I would pull the ticket and run it to the front door. And we would go to weird kind of one-off house places like Mechanicsville, and he would say, "Nice place, eh?" And what he was telling me was, "Go to school. You don't want to live in a place like this." One time in Stittsville, he was always looking out for me too. He said, he looks at the ticket, and there's a dog warning on it. "Stay in the truck. There's a big dog here, bit one of the guys. We'll just mail them the ticket." Okay. So he's out filling the oil, and then I forget, the truck stops, gunk gunk. I get the ticket, and I hop out of the truck, and I walk up to this place in Stittsville in the country. I put the ticket, turn around, and that is a big dog looking at me right there. And some dogs don't like me, or they like to bite me. And it was looking at me with its paws like this, and it just watched me go back to the truck. Maybe this isn't the right place. So I hopped in the truck and I said, "I forgot, there's a big dog, but he didn't bite me." So my dad's like, "Maybe the ticket's wrong. So, he's got to fix this now." So he calls in on the radio. "I'm at XXX Stittsville Drive. There's a dog warning on the ticket, but the dog seems okay." And his cousin, who did the same route, came on the radio, and he goes, "That's the right place. The dog's real nice since I hit him with the fill pipe." So that's, no more mammals are hurt now from these stories. That was the only two. And it made the dog much nicer. He did a lot of his own home improvements. He built his own garage with help from his fireman friends. I remember coming home from school once, and there were 7 Harley-Davidsons slant parked in the front driveway. They were all firefighters, and they were pouring the cement foundation. My dad loved interlock, so we were forced to also love interlock, and it was everywhere. He had bought a 1978 Triumph Bonneville motorcycle once. This is similar to the one that Fonz used to drive in Happy Days. And he used to drive it all over the place. He started out with a kind of open face helmet and a t-shirt, and then graduated to a leather jacket and a closed face helmet because there was no windshield, and there were big bugs, and they would hit him and they hurt. And one Saturday morning, my friends and I were treated to him kick-starting it 30 times, we counted, before he remembered you had to turn it on. So he's like, yeah. As people have said, my parents fostered over 100 children, 111 children from the Children's Aid. And there were times where I would stumble out of bed in the morning to go to school and open the door to the bathroom. And there would be some little kid I'd never seen before. And he'd say, "I'm not a scared." And I would close it and I'd go, "Mom, why is there a French kid on the toilet?" But then I would hit in, "Oh yeah, it's some apprehension." In the middle of the night, he had been apprehended from a bad situation, and he's living with us for a little while till his his biological parents sort things out. So I remember saying, "Bonjour, kid. I'll use the other bathroom." Growing up with a French last name with an English-speaking father was also very interesting. My mother is quite French. Her name is Diane Marie Deneige Sarrault. Deneige, of the snow. My dad used to make a joke about yellow snow, but that's not very nice. So he spoke very little, if any, French, and we used to, for fun, get him to pronounce French words. Rouge is red in English, and he would pronounce that ruggy, because he would just sound out the syllables. White was blank, which was close. Brun was brun. And blue was bleh. But my favorite word was the word for firefighter in French, which is pompier. And he would call that pumpire. Oh, pumpire. We're popping the P's on the mic. Pumpire. It's fun to say. I also have several memories of my father sticking up for me if I got bullied at school, which did happen. In grade 9, I was mugged in back of the Pinot store by 3 guys who pushed me down, took my wallet, and returned it to me empty of the $20 that I had just made from working on the oil that very day. And I got home, and I was kind of embarrassed. You know, it's hard to fight 3 guys, and I wasn't a real tough kid back then. I like to say now that I've met them all since then, and they're all like 5'2". That's another story. But I was kind of embarrassed as to what happened, but I should say something. So I remember saying at the supper table, "I think I got mugged." And my father pushed his plate and said, "What?" "Well, these guys pushed me down and took my wallet, and I think they took $20 from me." And he's like, "Do you know their names?" "I know 2 of their names." "Write them down." And I don't even think he finished eating. He took the names, and he left the house. Now, this is before the internet where you can do a reverse lookup on a name in the phone book and then go visit them. So 2 hours later, he came back, and I remember I was upstairs, and I heard him talk to my mom. He says, I visited them all. They're all like broken homes, bad situations. I feel kind of sorry for them. And he's telling my mom what he did. I don't know what he did or said, but he seemed to have tracked them all down except for one. And then I came down, and he said, those kids are in a bad situation, but you're going to get your money back, because that's not right. So you're going to get back tomorrow. So I went to school. I didn't know how this would happen. I was just kind of trying to forget the whole thing. And I was in one of my classes, and the biggest police officer I'd seen up until that time opened the door to my classroom and said, "Is David Carriere here?" And this is in front of a class. And I raised my hand. "Would you come with me, please?" So everyone in the class, they actually did, like in the movies, "Ooh," like this, like I had done something bad. I kind of knew what it was, and so I kind of followed this huge policeman, and we went to the office. And there's the 3 guys in the chair. And he didn't even look at them. He pulled his card out in front of him. The policeman had a card. And he said, "If these 3 guys don't pay you $7 each," that's an extra $1, actually, I'm going to get back, "by the end of the week, you call this number, and that's all you have to do." And then he turns to the guys, "Go back to class now." And he tells me, "You wait." So I waited. And we just waited. And I think it was he didn't want us in the hallway at the same time alone. Like, probably not a good idea. And he said, "Okay, you can go back to class. Say hi to your dad for me." "Oh, okay." And they paid me the money the next day. They all blamed each other for taking it. And they never so much as looked at me for the next 4 years. I don't know what was said. I don't know if anyone's had the pleasure of seeing my father deal with a situation where he believes he's been wronged, or someone isn't doing his job or getting the short end of the stick, but it's a sight to behold. And I'm going to end with this one. One time we got a phone call at the house. My mom answered it, and it was the Toronto police saying our car had been involved in a hit and run. And that was odd because our car was in the Concordia body and paint shop getting fixed up because someone in the family had a fender bender. I won't tell you who it is, but it wasn't me. So, it wasn't my dad either. Hey, no names. So my dad called the body shop, and I heard him say on the phone, "What do you mean that's probably when they tried to drive it through the fence while they tried to steal it?" And he slammed the phone down. "I'm going down there." So I wanted to go too. I wanted to see how smashed up this car was. we get down there, we see it in the lot. They parked it way in the back. And the mechanic had left the keys in the visor, and some kids had tried to steal it by driving it through the fence. You could see where they had tried to part the gates, like in the movies, except it didn't work. The fence held. And my dad was furious, because that happened 5 days ago, and they didn't call us. It looks like they're just going to fix it up and not tell anybody, but you could see it was a complete write-off. So my father goes in, and he's like, I'm John Carriere. I called you. And he started calmly talking to the guy, asking him, when were you going to call me about this, and stuff like that. And he was very calm. And the guy was trying to backtrack, and he got stuck on little details. And my father went, and he said, you make this right, or you're going to be sorry you ever met me. Except there was an effin' thrown in there. And, the place was full of customers, too. And everyone was silent. And the guy started to talk, and my dad just turned around and walked out. And I was like, I was caught up in the audience. And, I guess I'm going with him. I'll leave, too. So I love that saying. I've used it myself. When you are in the wrong, it's very powerful. And I encourage you all to take it into your daily routine. But in closing, one thing I can say is, I'm sure none of us are sorry that we ever met my father. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So, David, what are you going to play for us?
This is a song called Berkeley Springs.
Perfect.
Friend of mine, but don't know us. I don't think it has to be terribly loud. Just play something. That's good.
Wow. That boy can play. I'd like to conclude our time together by sharing with you a poem called The Broken Chain. It's written by Ron Tranmer and goes like this. We little knew that day God was going to call your name. In life, we loved you dearly. In death, we do the same. It broke our hearts to lose you. You did not go alone, for part of us went with you the day God called you home. You left us beautiful memories. Your love is still our guide, and although we cannot see you, you are always at our side. Our family chain is broken, and nothing seems quite the same. But as God calls us, one by one, the chain will link again. There are some beautiful words written by a composer named Don Ritson. He ends with these powerful and compelling words that I'd like to share with you in reflection of our beloved John's last breath. Take a moment and think about this, of drawing your last breath and reaching out and touching a hand and finding it God's, of breathing new air and finding it celestial, of waking up in glory and calling it home. No more fires to fight. No more. Ladies and gentlemen, may the love of friends and the joy of your memories carry you from this day forward until we meet again. Peace be upon you. And it would be inappropriate for me to stop sharing with you because we have a very fine lady here who needs to have the last word. So we're going to give it over to our beloved Diane, who's got something she'd like to share. All yours, Diane. Take it away.
Well, David's a tough act to follow.
You're a tough act to follow. What was going on?
Thank you for that, David. It was lovely. And for you, Carol. Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody that's come because it means so much to me and for John and my family. And I don't want anybody to be sad. Don't be sad. But I'm just going to leave you with a little bit. I'm not as winded as he is. But what it is years ago, somebody very, very dear to my heart asked me, does John ever say he loves you? And I said, he buys me pretzels. And she said, pretzels? Yeah. I love pretzels. They have to be rolled gold, baked, and the sticks. And when my bag gets low, well, lo and behold, another one appears. And John used to get our groceries and stuff, but you know what? He hated pretzels. He hated pretzels. So, no, he never said it in words that much. Certainly in the end he did. But he said he loved me in many, many ways in things that he did. And that was a small thing, and I looked for that, and he did that every day. So that being said, we did have, when we were dating, a very special song that was special to us. And they're going to play it now. And I thank everybody for the kind words and everything. And yeah, I did have to have the last word. I must tell you, my daughter-in-laws and my sons and my granddaughters here were a little bit worried of what I was going to say because I've been known not to have a filter. But on that note, we play our very favorite song, and don't be sad. Don't be sad, because he was tired. And he made it to our 50th anniversary, and that was his goal, and he hung by a thread for 3 weeks. And it was an amazing gift to me. So thank everybody. I'm thanking everybody. And I love you, John. Always, always. Thank you.
There's a kind of hush all over the world tonight, all over the world. You can hear the sounds of lovers in love. You know what I mean? Just the two of us and nobody else. In sight, there's nobody else, and I'm feeling good, just holding you tight.